So I thought I would start this review of 8th grade by pulling out my 8th grade yearbook. Oh my god. So I've flipped to my page. There's a bunch of faces you probably shouldn't see. We'll blur out all the faces but mine. Okay. So, as you can see, this lovely photo of me is glued in. You're looking at other people's faces. I'm sorry. Apparently, this washed out thing was what's in everybody's yearbook of me. And then I got to keep the original candid photo, which is from a dance. I remember this dance. I wore this beautiful, sparkly purple dress that made me feel like I was in a casino. That's what I used to say. I grew up near the Nevada border, so a casino was a very fancy thing. It so perfectly encapsulates how shitty 8th grade was. Like, oh man, I hated 8th grade. I basically spent most of 8th grade in the library reading books and not talking to people. So that was my 8th grade. Which leads us to my review of Bo Burnham's film 8th grade. Bo Burnham started out as a high school age YouTuber. He had a channel when he was 16. He posted comedy, music clips, and then eventually had an MTV show and several other things. He's a stand-up comedian. Look him up. This is his first film as a writer-director. And according to an interview I saw, a really great interview with the What the Flick, he talked about how he had written several drafts of this, the first of which he wrote in a couple of weeks, and then every couple of years when he couldn't get financing, he would have to update all the technology in it. And what I thought was great about the film is that it really captures a lot of the awkwardness of middle school in a way that most middle school films don't. What makes it also interesting is, so I'm a slightly older millennial. So I went to middle school from 97 to 2000. I graduated in the year 2000. And that was just at the tail end of the innocence that was pre-school shootings, right? We had the Oklahoma City bombing was when I was in elementary school, but pretty much school shootings started happening right when I was in middle school and have just skyrocketed since then. So that's, I think, how you mark sort of these generations. I also was a substitute teacher about 8 years ago almost 9 years ago, oh God, for mostly middle school. And those kids were all children when 9/11 happened. And then suddenly here they are in middle school. This film features middle school students who say they're 13, oldest are 13. That means they were born in 2005. They were born after 9/11. They were born during the second term of George W. Bush. They were born when I was in college. And they have a whole different sort of world they've grown up in. They've grown up in a world, they were born after Facebook. So you've got a very different perspective of how social interactions happen in a world post War on Terror, post social media boom, right? So you've got sort of explorations of there's this horrifying scene where they're doing a school shooting drill, and the drills we did, I grew up in California, so we did duck and cover type. Well, we did fake duck and cover once. No, that was a different thing. We did earthquake drills, and that's a very different natural disaster kind of thing that probably wouldn't happen in the high desert where I grew up. But a school shooting can happen freaking anywhere, so they have to do those everywhere, and that boggles my mind. But the way that scene plays is so darkly comic. To use one of my favorite words, mordant. Really good. The film follows Kayla through her last week of 8th grade. Kayla is played by Elsie Fisher. She was one of the voices on the Despicable Me films and has been in a couple of other things. Her father is played by Josh Hamilton. I had looked up his filmography, and I have seen a bunch of movies he's in, but I never remembered him. He was sort of a that guy kind of guy. And the bulk of the film is her recording these videos and attempting to socialize this last week, and sort of talking about technology. Like, she's a girl whose mother has left. She did not have a mother, and yet she knows how to do makeup and other things that are generally taught by mothers, or taught through some sort of social system, at least prior to the internet, right? But she's learning how to do all these techniques through YouTube, and I think this was one of the best, having been made by a YouTuber, one of the best films to really encapsulate the way in which young people use YouTube. I use YouTube to watch music videos from the 80s and feel nostalgic. Young people use YouTube to learn how to do shit and as entertainment in a way, like with creators, in a way that I will never understand. But this movie does. And it understands why, as part of that ecosystem, a girl like Kayla would try to add to that entertainment and talk to strangers. And obviously, here I am on YouTube talking to strangers. So I get that a little bit. But I talk about movies mostly, not about myself. Although, if you go back through my archives, you can find a few. There's some videos. So I thought it hit marks really well. I was really surprised that this was written and directed by a dude, because there were some moments that felt really true to like my awkward teen girlness, including like being totally in love with the inappropriate and awful but so beautiful popular boy. Like, I know those feelings. You know they're assholes, but they have that swoop hair and the beautiful eyes, and you're like mesmerized, you know? And trying to like fit in with popular girls. Like, I understand that. And being a nerd who like would so much rather just sit at home and like play board games and do crafts. It's a big crafts kind of person. Rainy day crafts. But it was fun to see Kayla sort of start as one kind of girl in public and on YouTube, a different girl on YouTube, and then try to take the YouTube self out into the real world and see what it's like to practice what she preaches. And to see people be awful. Some people be awful, some people be great. And that's so true to life, that, you know, you just keep trying and eventually you'll find your people. And she does, and that's lovely. And there's a scene with the dad where, towards the end, where he's saying the things that everybody wishes their parents had said to them about how wonderful it is to be the parent of a child that they truly like. You know, there's some parents who don't like their kids. That's the truth. But there's a lot of parents who love their kids and who actually truly like who these kids are, even when they're difficult sometimes. And it's sometimes hard to get past the difficult to just say, hey, I like you for who you are as a parent. And so having a surrogate dad say that was really, I teared up a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. What else? Oh, it's great that we've moved past having to like smooth out the faces of adolescent actors and just let them have zits. Like, I'm fucking 32 and I still have zits, so it's nice. I didn't really have zits when I was this age. I had blackheads. I want to see true blackheads. I don't want to just see, like in Princess Diaries, where she's wearing the blackhead thing. I want to see someone with actual friggin' blackheads on their nose who's a teenager. Like, I would love that. But that's neither here nor there. I loved the way the film was shot. There were several moments that made me feel like I was watching an Andrea Arnold film, except that Andrea Arnold does the like really close, you know, and this was a much wider framed film, but the way it followed her via the camera behind her, really, there were some moments that really felt like the way Andrea Arnold films teenagers. So I'd like to be like, yo, did you watch many Andrea Arnold movies before you were making this? Because I felt that. I loved the way it was edited. I really enjoyed the way it looped the social media and the music with real life in a way that I feel like people who live with their iPods always on are. And the overlapping apps with things happening in real life, I feel like that's very true to that generation, at least as I've observed it. So I enjoyed this film a lot. I don't know that it's like the best film ever, but I think it's a very true film and a very authentic film. And I look forward to seeing Elsie Fisher in more films because she's definitely a star. And And yeah, I recommend it. Feel bad for all the YouTubers who only have 3 views, but then sometimes some of my reviews only have 3 views because no one gives a shit about some of the weird, obscure films that I watch. But I put it out there anyways because you never know. You never know. Oh, last thing. I keep seeing that Tumblr is dying. This movie had Tumblr in it because nerdy people will always be on Tumblr. Always. Oh, and shout out to the middle school proto social media things that I was on as a youth. GeoCities, Yahoo groups, Neopets, LiveJournal. I love ya. I still have friends that I met on LiveJournal 15, 30 God years ago. I don't even know. Anyways, this is 8th grade. It's written and directed by Bo Burnham. It opened limited last week. It's platforming out. I think it's in about 10 cities this weekend, and it will keep opening wider and wider as long as people go see it. So go check this movie out. I think you will enjoy it. 8th grade.